Flight of the Crow's Wing presents our brake rebuild with an axle seal replacement on a Ford 8N tractor. The left-hand brake on my father-in-law's tractor had stopped working. We suspected that it was a leaking axle seal, and this is how we fixed the problem. Pennsylvania, July 2023.
This video is not intended to be a professional how-to guide to brake repair. It is intended for DIY entertainment purposes only. Attempt your repairs at your own risk.
Luckily, my father-in-law and brother-in-law had accumulated a large pile of owner's manuals. The first is the service manual for the 2N, 8N, and 9N. Unfortunately, it did not appear to have a whole lot of pertinent information to our problem. The next one, the Ford Operator's Manual, had a little bit more information in it. The instructions were a little vague, but it did include some equally vague drawings. It did contain the best description on how to adjust the brakes. The Ford Shop Manual had the same instructions, but better drawings. The instructions were still a little limited, but it did include the fact that the right-hand brake uses one retracting spring and the left-hand brake uses two retracting springs. And it had this nice exploded diagram with parts labeled. Our last reference was the Ford Tractor Parts Catalog. We found in this one the classified ad for the tractor's purchase. And this book contained all the part numbers, included here for your reference. Hopefully you know how to pause your video and write down numbers or take screenshots. If not, you'd better be a fast reader. As is normal for us, we watched many videos on how to do this rebuild. Our favorite is linked in the description below. We purchased parts from Amazon, including a new axle retainer and seal, a brake repair kit that had springs, a dust shield gasket, and spring anchors. And of course, new brake shoes. And now, on to the repair. Remove the axle nut snap ring. I believe they're supposed to be 400 foot-pounds. Watch this. Then remove the axle nut.
Yeah.
That's not torqued. Almost every other bit of it's going to be like an effort. Loosen the lug nuts, then jack your tractor up. The lug nuts are tighter than the axle hub was. Once your wheel is off the ground, remove the lug nuts. Then remove the tire. Don't drop it on your toes. There we go. I don't know where I'm going with it. Seems like a fine place. So it's got 4 screws that need to come out. So remove the 4 screws holding the brake drum in place.
I'm sure somebody put, oh my gosh.
Well, see, the axle's been leaking, so it's got automatic anti-seize on it.
Oh my gosh, it's just slipping off.
That's. And don't forget to remove the metal and rubber washers from the axle. These are supposed to be locked onto there. Remove the brake drum. Definitely a leaking seal. There's your problem. That nut that we take off first, that should be torqued down to like 400 pound-feet of torque, which would lock this in as like a press fit, and you'd have to pull this out with some kind of puller. Remove hub. There, it just comes out by hand. Remove the brake springs. One.
Don't know why I jumped.
We recommend purchasing a brake spring tool to make this job easier. Somebody on the forum said this was hard without a tool. Oh, come on, you're almost there. Here, you can see how fast I'm not removing the brake spring. In hindsight, it probably would have been faster to drive to the auto parts store and pick up a removal tool. We could have been back in less time than it took to actually remove this one spring. It took so long that Beth stopped filming and wandered off, which is why we don't have any video of the spring actually coming off. Remove the brake shoes. Handy tip, take a photo of them in place before you remove them so you know their orientation when you reinstall them.
Now the shoes are actually in good shape, but they're just coated with oil and they've absorbed so much oil that... Alright, so this retainer, he called this a spider, which I can see why. It kind of looks spiderish. There's these two bolts, top and bottom.
This is two short ones, top
Two
and bottom.
short ones, top and bottom, then these long ones go through all the way.
Yeah.
Remove the 4 nuts and washers that fasten the retainer brake anchor to the axle from the back. These are at the 2, 4, 8, and 10 o'clock positions.
I'm just going to loosen them a bit at a time in case things go south.
Remove the 2 short bolts from the top and bottom in the front.
Come on. Ow! I just smashed my finger.
Remove the 2 short bolts from the top and bottom in the back.
Nope, too much crud.
Remove the 4 long through bolts.
We're supposed to come all the way out like those two.
Got a bunch of pins over there in the toolbox if you need to.
Remove the seal plate, the anchor plate, otherwise known as a spider, and the bearing retainer and shims. Our assembly was all stuck together and ended up coming out all in one piece.
Steel shim. And then I gotta get these studs out so we can separate these two pieces. So
This is the bearing retainer.
right there, that's a
And there goes the
have a
seal
new one of
retainer.
those. Oh, there's your
And this is where the gasket is located on the axle seal retainer.
There's your gasket. That's what holds all the fluids in. Just that.
Wow, that escalated.
Don't
quickly.
panic if your brake spindle falls out.
That would
It just
slide
pops
out.
right
It
back
did,
in.
But it slid out more than I wanted. I wanted to just slide this off of here.
Remove the brake dust shield.
Like that.
Note its orientation for future
That's your
reference.
bearing.
That's your bearing. Bearing, however,
Inspect your bearings.
just rolling it. I don't feel any catch points in it. And I don't see any, I'll need to clean that up a little bit, but I don't feel any or see any spalling on them. So the bearings are good. I'll have to look at the race inside that hub. It should be good. If the bearings are good, the race should be good.
Now it's time for reassembly.
Just a different book.
There. It's brake shield, 13, which is shims, and then it's got the cup and retainer.
Note, this diagram is missing the brake anchor, i.e. spider.
So that's actually the
Here is a still frame for your reference. The proper order is shim, dust shield, 2 shims, bearing retainer, brake anchor, new seal, and seal retainer.
there is a shim there. Shim at the axle hub, then the retainer this goes on, and then another one goes on, and then this goes on.
We did have a lively discussion as to where the
I took
shims
it off
went.
on this side, but there must only been one on that side. There's the felt seal.
Place the dust shield on the
Supposed to keep
axle.
dust out of your
Remove and
system.
replace the old dust shield gasket.
But maybe it doesn't matter
I don't know. In the big scheme of
in the big scheme of things. It was like this.
it looks clean to me.
Beth didn't like the way it looked after I put it on, so she took it out and put it back in. So now it looks neat.
Then it was, which side were the shims on?
Oh no,
shim's going
not
next.
the shim argument
The shims
again.
going next.
I placed 2 bolts temporarily from the back to hold everything together, and then installed the 2 shims.
2 shims.
And the hook goes that way because the top and bottom
Bearing
are
retainer goes on next,
threaded.
with its threaded holes at the top and the bottom.
Here, I got this one.
You said those bolts are going.
All right.
Next is the brake
As far
anchor
as I can get those on
or
at the
spider.
moment.
Right.
Okay. So
You need your lube.
I could put bolt in here because it just goes in the back side of that to start drawing the hub. There's short ones that go on the front and long ones.
The 2 longer short screws can be installed from the top and bottom of the back of the assembly.
this surface.
I used a smear of grease in the seal track to facilitate the seal staying in
A
place.
smudge of grease to hold the gasket in place while everything is.
We're trying to do everything else. All right, smudge of grease. Set that aside. Gasket goes there.
Place the new axle seal in its track.
Can be neoprene or nylon.
Or cork. Cork was the original gasket.
I also applied a thin coat of grease to the back of the seal retainer.
Grease should help that seal too, right?
Yeah. It's supposed to help everything just kind
Install
of
the seal retainer plate over the seal
They all get to know each other.
Didn't get
and then take it off to look at it for some unknown
That's
reason.
fine.
supposed to
That's where
live.
it's supposed to be.
In hindsight, it might have been easier to just install the seal on the retainer plate
get on.
first.
Right.
Then I can put getting onto your brakes.
Reinstall the top and bottom short bolts on the front.
2 small bolts, top and bottom.
And so this is just to replace the seal.
This is just to replace the seal. We haven't started replacing brakes yet.
Reinstall the 4 long bolts
They
from
go
the
in.
front.
That direction.
Yep, just
Yep, just easy as can be. Easy as can be.
they're just gonna pull right out.
Yep, easy as can be. God damn it, get out of there. Why are you hanging on so tight? You could let go any day now, and that would be great. No, you're stuck.
swear it yet until it's doing the job it's supposed to do.
Yep. Same thing. Why would the universe be out to get me? All right.
Okay.
So, now then these guys were hammered in, right?
Yep.
So I got to hammer them in until they're flush with the retainer.
Yep.
And then we can put the bolts on the back.
Hammer the bolts to seat them. A brass hammer would be better for this, but we did not have one available.
That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. Okay. One.
Install the 4 nuts on the long through bolts.
Some bug just buzzed by my head so fast I felt wind.
Tighten down all the nuts. And torque them to 50 foot-pounds.
Click. Yep, I was only about 2 pounds off. Click. Click.
Is it necessary to say click?
Yep, every time. Click. See?
All right, now we're ready for brakes, man.
Brakes.
Brakes. Some brakes. Okay. Okay, so we got it upside down.
Yep.
Lay out your brakes, making sure you put them in the correct orientation. This would be the time you check that photo you took earlier.
Smooth side is out, so this is actually the bottom shoe. There.
Install 2 spring anchors into the shoes.
This one's the top shoe there.
Right.
And the star wheel
Goes down.
goes down, but I'm going to finish watching this video real quick just to see.
Big honking spring.
Big honking.
Alright, so then you go in there,
Install top brake shoe.
and then that sets, I think that sets right in there.
Yeah.
Like that.
That makes sense. That actually makes more sense. So it
Yeah.
sets
So it
behind
sets,
that little thingy.
so these tabs fit into that little slot right there.
Right. And so this is on the outside.
And
That's on the inside. And then the same for the bottom.
Yeah, we're learning things. Okay, so here we go again. So we're on the inside. of that
Install
one, the
bottom
inside of
brake
that
shoe.
one. Like that. Like that, right? All right, there's my spring. There's my screwdriver that works.
Install long spring.
Double check the placement once we have it. Wow. You did that like
A professional. Now we have to put our star adjuster in. Yeah.
Install the brake adjustment spindle on the right side.
Come on.
There you go.
There we go.
Install the shortest spring.
That's like the magical screwdriver.
That is the magic screwdriver. Come on.
He doesn't want it quite going here, but he's stuck on it.
He's stuck on the star drive wheel.
There we go.
There we go.
Yay!
Ta-da. Now then, the long arm one.
Now you gotta figure out which one's the clean one. bottom one's a clean one.
Where was he attached at?
You know.
I don't remember.
Install the third spring. This is for the left brake
Watch the
only.
video and
Could watch the video
I
again.
recommend doing that before you just start randomly
Yeah.
sticking it in holes.
Video time.
Get in there. There we go. And that's what holds it in position. The left side only.
So where's it go from where to where, dude?
Oh, it's hooked right
How do we
here.
put our hubs on?
Here and here.
So how do
This
these
hole.
work?
Yep. He's like there and up on there.
Because of all the extra linkages. on
And
this.
all the extra linkages on that.
Yay!
Like that.
Like that.
There is your brakes.
Okay.
Kind of center them up, I reckon. All right. So I've greased the outside surface of the hub.
Grease the hub shaft and place the hub on the axle.
And we're gonna go back on there. And we're in.
Replace the rubber washer and then the metal
There
washer.
was this little rubber washer that you can see it's got indentations that match up the splines on the end of the axle. So there's that.
And this is
And there was
rough side
this
out.
rubber steel washer, rough side out.
Install the axle hub nut.
That was scary.
So I'm just going to tighten this up. Since it goes to some weird thing like 400 foot-pounds, I'm just going to put it on finger tight.
Alright,
All right.
cool. Now the cover goes on.
Make sure the brake shoes are properly
makes you
seated
wonder
on the
whether
brake
this should
actuating
Be
camshaft.
touching?
Be touching on this side.
It probably should be.
And it's off by half an inch. Because it looks like
Make sure your brake actuating camshaft is properly seated on its pivot point.
part of the reason is that this thing is down too far down. It actually might not. Like this linkage is down too far. Oh, fudge. I wonder if this section right here is supposed to be at the middle of this section. And it's not.
Beep.
Damn it. See right there? That's what it would make sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why it's not fitting.
Reading.
I think so. I think it'll actually make a boop once it gets to where it's supposed to be, you know. Because it had a little knobby on it.
Oof.
Don't do that.
Like that.
That looks right.
This whole
Install the brake drum.
recessed hole goes there. Just like that. These 4 holes.
Replace the 4 screws to hold the brake drum in place. Give the brake drum a couple of love taps and make sure all the screws are tightened down properly.
Well, looks alright. Except for the seal sticks out.
Fun part,
Now you can put the wheel back
putting
on.
the big tire back on. Stay upright.
We lowered the jack until the wheel studs lined up with the holes in the rim to facilitate mounting the tire.
A little more. A little more. Stop.
Screw on the lug nuts, lower the jack, and then finish tightening your lug nuts. With the tractor on the ground, torque the lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. tighten the axle nut and torque it to approximately 400 foot-pounds.
Must be 450. I don't think I can do that. Here's that much. Pretty sure I don't have a 450-pound torque wrench.
In my case, I torqued it until I was worried about breaking the ratchet, and I thought that's good enough.
I don't know what that is, but it's tighter than it was when we started.
Install the axle nut snap ring.
Alright, there's that.
Now you need to adjust the brakes. Jack the tractor up until both wheels are off the ground, remove the brake adjustment cover, turn the adjuster until the brake drags with the pedal in the released position, back off the adjustment until the wheel turns with very slight drag. During the first hour of operation, feel the drum to see if they are hot. If they are hot, readjust the brake tension. Here I am making minor adjustments to the brakes. Time to get back to the brush hogging. And now for the blooper reels.
Don't use that video.
And that's, oh shoot.
What? What did you forget?
I think the
The
backing
dust
plate's
shield was put on backwards.
What backing?
Go back to your, I think we put the backing plate on backwards.
What?
I think this is the front, this is the brake side, and this is,
All right, let me.
Relying on that first manual's poor diagram, we forgot to install the anchor plate and the bearing seal. In hindsight, it was a pretty obvious mistake.
look in the...
And we tried to put the brake shoes on backwards, and we
I
were
wanna
very
say
confused
the
about the
stars should be
adjustment
on the
spindle
bottom.
placement. In other words, if we'd taken a reference photo, we could have easily checked.
Is this right? That's an N, 8N. For 8N, this is 8N. The star's on the bottom.
The star is on the bottom.
According to the pictures on this one. Oh wait, no, but then it shows on this. Wait a blinking second. Unless that's the other side. Which side is this? Well, this shows it being towards the bottom here. On this picture, it looks like it's towards the top.
And we mounted the brake shoe incorrectly on the anchor plate.
Where it needs to be. It looks like no.
Oh wait, maybe it is. Maybe this shoe's not where it's supposed to be, because that looks like that might be...
Mistakes. 37% of the time, we're 100% correct. Ever make mistakes in life? Let's make them into birds. Yeah, they're birds now. Happy little birds. If you like this video, check out our channel and subscribe.